can't imagine this year ending any differently than what I originally pictured. It's very bizarre because it's to me, and I tried to tailor some of the questions along those lines, that this was very much, I mean, West Virginia folk life is about preserving these traditions and a model of learning that is, you know, anything but technological. So it's strange to find that that's our primary tool. So in learning, how has that felt for you, Jon? I mean, I don't know how to identify or teach when my only sensory organ is my eyes. How does it feel on the learning side of it?
I don't think that there were any failures this year, personally. I think the way that we did it was actually quite nice, because we took, you know, the few opportunities we had early to go out and familiarize, at least for me, familiarize myself with, you know, just a few plants, and then further that through, you know, online stuff, and you would send me recipes and just different ways to preserve and use these plants that we took the time earlier to learn about. I think it went quite well as we could hope for anyways. You know, I think definitely a combined approach is ideal, for sure. But of course, it wasn't really an option with this year. Sustainable use of plants and fungi, super duper important, especially now with you know, increased interest in foraging and you know, home gardening and stuff like that. I do think that it's kind of important to spread the word and do the best we can to be stewards to our abundant plants and fungi out there, because without that mindset, they could quickly become, well, less abundant, I suppose.
Probably a pertinent question at this moment then is for you. One of my very first herb teacher asked me this question, and I think I've been answering it my whole life, but the question is to define an herb. And I know a botanist would say, oh, it's any non-woody herbaceous plant that dies back to the ground. But every herbalist I know uses all sorts of things like mushrooms and considers them to fall under the category of an herb. So what's your opinion? What's an herb?
I don't know. I think I kind of like it as a more of a catch-all term. Mushrooms, plants, anything that grows in nature and can be used for, let's say, food, medicine, and craft. Would consider that an herb, I say.
I agree completely, and I think I'm always tacking on my ongoing definition for an herb that I've been adapting for 35 years or whatever. It keep tweaking it just a little bit, you know, because of course now I'm thinking about things like, oh, and so originally I was thinking in terms of what's beneficial to and for humans. And now, especially this year, my mind is all about the pollinators. I think that in my garden, I'm only going to grow flowers this year. There'll be herbs, of course, and I'll do some harvesting. But I am really thinking about the pollinators. The bees had such a hard year last year, and I just want to give back to them because I know that their work ends up giving back to all of us, the life of the forest and humans and animals. And so it just seems like a really good year to give back. So my herb definition keeps expanding and expanding. And yeah, it's kind of anything, you know. An herbalist will draw on all kinds of tools. From the very beginning, I realized that an herbalist isn't going to be limited to just the leafy parts of a plant. They're going to use seeds and roots and fruits, and it's going to be the food that's on your plate, whether you're healthy or feeling ill. It's going to be even the scent that's on the air when you take a walk through the forest or through the garden. That's very, very healing. Now we have a different name for that. We call it aromatherapy, but that's another part of being an herbalist. It's another part of the herb. Ironically, COVID has highlighted, rather than eclipsed, the influence and usefulness of traditional skills, not just herbalism, but everything from baking bread, especially making your own leavening like sourdough, to canning, other forms of food preservation, making soup, gardening, animal husbandry, as well as home herbalism. What new skills have you embraced this year that you're thankful that you learned? And what skills have you decided you want to learn?
Well, I feel I've learned a huge variety of different ways to preserve plants and prepare them for food and medicine. So I think that was a big one for me. Got fully stocked medicine cabinet and cupboard and doing good in that regard. Making baskets was huge.
When there were so many, shortages and rushes for purchasing things, well, we know the infamous toilet paper shortages, but did that kind of shift? I love that you said you have a fully stocked apothecary. You got your home herbal medicine chest. That's awesome. And I'm a big proponent of every home having those basic things. A lot of times they can come right off of our spice shelf, or spice rack. But did you see how did that feel in the midst of seeing people rush to purchase everything that was needed in the midst of an epidemic?
Definitely made me incredibly grateful to live where I do. But to have a fully stocked garden is one thing, but to just have all this land to roam and be able to forage is just something that, can easily be taken for granted, but really shouldn't be. I think, it was definitely a big eye-opener. Made me really, truly appreciate living where we do.
That's such a good point, Jon. And, thinking about the kind of basics in terms of physical needs in everyday life, our food, our shelter, it's easy to fixate on those. But one of the things that I really learned this year is how important nature was, which I always feel a little funny when I use that term and say nature, because it makes it sound like it's something separate from me, whereas really I am a part of that nature. But when gathering together with people, traveling, all those different things got blocked. They weren't safe places to go. It was such I get chills right now just thinking about it, that nature was a safe haven. And it really always has been our safe haven, but that was highlighted this year. It was the one place we could go. We can still go safely. We can go walking through the woods. We can go hiking. We can go to the ocean. We can go so many places, and that's still available to us at all times. And what I experienced is every time I did go walk through the woods or through the fields, I felt so incredibly nourished and healed and calmed in a way that I did not find anywhere else this year. And I hope there's lots of other people experiencing that too. For some, maybe, really for the first time. I know that a lot of people who took up hiking or just spent much, much more time outdoors, and that can be life-changing to realize what a balm and healing, it's a medicine, it's really good medicine. So I better tuck that into my definition of an herb, just the healing properties of being in nature. I feel like we covered our questions, but I do have one, and it's something I'm asking myself personally too, is just how valid is the traditional model of apprenticeship and learning about home herbalism, and what lies ahead? What should we carry forward that we gleaned from this year?
Traditional in-person apprenticeship style is definitely still pertinent, and I think it probably always will be. Technology is great and has so many almost endless uses. I think it definitely needs to be kind of a combined approach to learning in this day and age. As far as how or what we need to carry forward, and I think it has to go back to conscious collecting, right? I think retaining this diverse wildlife and all that entails is the most important thing we could possibly carry forward from this.
That's great. I feel, ironically, I can remember points in this year feeling incredibly frustrated and limited. And yet, as we come to a close for this year, I feel, in a sense, like a lot more clarity and a lot more gratitude that you pointed out a number of times, Jon, that this is just the beginning. This is a lifetime of study. Herbalism is always a lifelong study, and because it's about a relationship. So there's not a point where you graduate from learning. You're always learning and growing. And I couldn't possibly, even in my whole lifetime, know every plant, much less fungi and other species that are just right around my house, just in my immediate environment. In a lifetime, I won't know them all. And so rather than feeling limited, I feel like that's wonderfully exciting. It reminds me that the world is full of mystery and opportunities to learn and to grow.